Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be the last video in our Philosophy of Mind series, and it's going to discuss the physicalist responses to the knowledge argument. We'll start out by reviewing what the knowledge argument is, and then we'll look at the physicalist responses. And we'll look at three. The first is the no new learning response. The second is the ability response. And the third is the phenomenal concept strategy. And all of these can be found in that 1,000 words philosophy essay that we assigned for reading this week. So let's review the knowledge argument. The first premise says, Mary knows all the physical facts about other people's color vision while she's confined to her black and white room. The second premise says, nonetheless, Mary does not know all the facts about other people's color vision while she's confined to her black and white room. Thus, there are non-physical facts about other people's color vision. So this is a deductively valid argument. If its premises are true, then the conclusion must be true as well. The question is it a sound argument? Are the premises actually true? Well, premise one is built into the story itself. Now, Mary's a fictional person, but it seems that at least theoretically, it would be possible to learn all the physical facts about color vision while confined to a black and white room, because physical science is meant to be able to describe the world in a way that doesn't require any one particular experience. We can describe them in an objective way that can be understood from multiple different perspectives. The second premise, why should we believe that even if she knows all the physical facts, she wouldn't know all the facts? Well, the idea is that when we imagine Mary leaving this black and white room and seeing color for the first time, perhaps a red rose, in that experience, by having that experience herself, she would learn something new about the nature of color experiences. What would she learn? She would learn what it feels like to see a red rose. She would learn that in addition to all this physical stuff going on, there was also this subjective experience attached to all that physical stuff. Thus, the what it feels like to see red, the subjective experience involved in color experiences, must be a non-physical fact about that experience. So how might someone who believes that everything that exists must be physical, including every aspect of the human mind, try to reply to this argument? The first kind of response is what we can call the no learning objection. This kind of response says, we only think Mary would learn something new when she experiences red for the first time because of our own ignorance. We can't truly imagine what it would be like to have complete physical knowledge. And so we don't have good reason to believe that that second premise is true. We don't have any good reason to believe that when Mary leaves her room, she would actually learn anything. On this view, if Mary has all physical knowledge, Mary could already figure out what it's like to see red just from what she knows while she's in her black and white room. We just don't realize how she could do this because we don't have all the knowledge that Mary has. We don't know all the physical facts about color vision. Nobody yet knows that. And so maybe if you knew all those things, you would be able to learn what subjective experiences feel like without having the experiences yourself. So Dan Dennett tries to motivate this response by asking us to imagine a situation where Mary's captors try to play a trick on her. They're going to let her see color for the very first time, but they're not going to do it by letting her out of her room. They're going to come in, and they're going to be painted entirely black and white, and they're going to hand her a banana. And Mary knows that people call bananas yellow. She knows that bananas reflect the yellow wavelengths on the light spectrum, and she knows that people look at that color and they call it yellow. But Mary's captors are going to play a trick on her, so they painted the banana blue without telling her. What's going to happen when she sees blue? One possibility is that the captor's tricks will work. She's going to look at it, she's going to mistakenly think that she's having a yellow experience because she knows that bananas are yellow, but she couldn't figure out what it's like to see yellow while she's in her black and white room. So she doesn't know that what she currently feels in her mind is actually what it's like to see blue. She doesn't know that, and so she assumes it's just what it's like to see yellow. Another possibility, though, is that maybe they give her the blue banana. She looks at it, she's like, what the heck is this? What are you doing? Maybe the trick fails. Maybe Mary was able to use all that physical knowledge about the reflectance of light, about what would go on in her brain if she ever saw yellow, And maybe she was able to use that to figure out what it was like to see blue and what it's like to see yellow. And so when she has this experience, maybe she knows that it's actually what she expected of a blue experience, even though she knows bananas are yellow. And so she looks at them and says, "You can't play a trick on me. I know this is blue. What'd you do to it?" Dennett's main claim is just that both of these are possible outcomes. We don't know which of these would happen. But the knowledge argument assumes that the first possibility is correct. And thus, Dennett thinks that the argument commits the fallacy of begging the question. By assuming that she's going to learn something when she leaves the room, it's already assuming that knowing all the physical information is not enough. It's already assuming that physicalism is false. And your argument shouldn't assume your conclusion in the very premises themselves. And the idea here is just, we don't have all the physical knowledge, and so we don't know what it would be like to have all the knowledge that Mary is supposed to have in this thought experiment, and so we can't know if she would learn anything when she leaves the room and sees color for the first time, or if she wouldn't learn anything. Nonetheless, a lot of physicalists agree that there seems to be something strange about this. They think, I can't shake this idea that you would learn something by experiencing these things for yourself. So an alternative response is what's called the ability response. This physicalist position says, you're right. Mary will gain knowledge when she leaves this room. She'll have an aha moment. However, according to this response, Mary's new knowledge is just know-how. She was not missing any knowledge of truths about the way the world is while she was stuck in her black and white room. And so there's no truths that go beyond the physical world. So to understand this response, we need to distinguish between two kinds of knowledge. There's know that, when a person has knowledge that some claim is true. This is knowledge of some fact or information about how the world is. But then there's also know how. This is when a person knows how to do something. The person has various abilities, but this does not necessarily include knowledge of any facts or information about the way the world is. Let's consider some examples just to make this distinction more clear. Regarding know that, you know that 2 + 2 = 4. You know that this claim is true. You have this information about the world. You know that your professor's name is Sam. At least I hope you know that by now. You have this information about the way the world is. You know that it's true. You know that certain objects reflect red wavelengths of light. You have this information about the way the world is. Let's consider some examples of know-how. Maybe you know how to ride a bike. Maybe you know how to hit a golf ball 300 yards. I don't. Maybe you know how to drive a car. All of these consist of having certain abilities. So consider the example of knowing how to hit a golf ball 300 yards. This is not the same thing as knowing truths about the way the world is. It's just having certain abilities. Even if you know all the truths about golf, about physics, maybe you know that you need to hold the club in a particular way. Maybe you know that you need to hit the ball at a certain angle, a certain velocity, with certain speed in order to get the ball to go 300 yards. But even if you know that you need to do all these things, you know that these things are true about the physics of golf, you might know all of those truths and still get to the ball and hit it 20 feet like me. The fact that you lack those abilities doesn't imply that you lacked any knowledge of truths or information. So on this ability view, Mary's learning what it's like to see red is nothing more than Mary gaining know-how. Knowing what it's like to see red just is having certain abilities. And learning what it's like to see red is gaining those abilities when you didn't have them before. Knowing what it's like to see red doesn't include any knowledge of facts or information about the way the world is. It doesn't include any know that. While in the room, Mary lacks the abilities involved in knowing what it's like to see red. When she leaves the room, she gains these abilities and knows what it's like to see red, so she learns something when she leaves. But The idea is learning those abilities is not the same thing as learning any information about the world. There was no missing information about how the world was, and so there's no non-physical information included in our world. The challenge for this response is trying to describe what are these abilities that make up knowing what it's like. The main idea here is that knowing what it's like to have an experience just consists in having the ability to recognize, imagine, and remember the relevant experience. On this view, when she leaves the room, she doesn't learn any new facts. Rather, she now is able to recognize red using her vision. She's able to imagine red experiences, and she's able to remember red experiences. Those are all abilities she didn't have while she was in the room. So she gained those abilities and learned something, but she didn't learn any new information about the world. An alternative strategy for responding is what's come to be known as the phenomenal concept strategy. This strategy says that Mary learns something when she leaves the black and white room, and the new knowledge she gets is about facts and information about color experiences. It isn't just abilities to recognize or imagine these experiences. However, this view says her new knowledge is not about a new fact that she didn't already know. She does gain new knowledge she didn't have before, but her new knowledge is still about an old fact she already knew while in her room. You might be thinking, wait, what? Hold on. How can the knowledge be new if the thing she knows is something old that she already knew? The idea is that when Mary leaves the room, Mary gains a new kind of concept or idea, that because she now has this idea or new concept, she has a new way to think or know about this old fact that she previously knew. Let's consider an analogy to try to explain. The fact Superman can fly is the same as the fact that Clark Kent can fly, because Clark Kent and Superman are the same person. And so these two sentences are actually just two different ways of talking about the fact that this one person is able to fly. Now, consider Lois Lane. Lois Lane has the idea of Clark Kent, and she has the idea of Superman. She has both of these concepts. These are two different ways that she can think about the same person. Lois Lane knows Superman can fly, but she doesn't know that Clark Kent can fly, since she doesn't know that they're the same person. The idea here is there's one fact. Lois Lane has one kind of knowledge about that fact, but is lacking another kind of knowledge about the fact. She has the Superman knowledge about that fact, but she's lacking the Clark Kent knowledge about that same fact. But once she learns that Clark Kent is Superman, Lois Lane is then able to think about the person who flies in the sky above Metropolis in a new way that she wasn't able to before. She can think about that person as Clark Kent. So she learns that Clark Kent can fly. But when she does that, she's not learning a new fact about that person. She already knew that that person could fly. She just didn't know it when she was using her idea of Clark Kent. She only knew that fact when she used the idea Superman. And so now, by learning that Clark Kent is Superman, she merely gains a new way to think about this old fact that she already knew. Analogously, the phenomenal concept strategy is claiming that Mary knows all of the facts when she's in the black and white room. But when she leaves the room and has the experience of red herself, she gains a new way of thinking about redness that she didn't have when she was in the room. And now that she has that new way of thinking about redness, she is now able to think about an earlier fact in a new way. And that is a new kind of knowledge. Nonetheless, since it's a fact she already knew, the physicalist is not forced to the conclusion that there's any facts outside of the physical facts, beyond the physical facts. So that's it for this video. I hope you all had a good time. Bye-bye.